Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow.
Hi, this is James Rickman. I'm the director of iHumanMobile.com and iHumanEvolution.com. And I wanted to speak a little bit about the U.S. economic circumstances and the issues, particularly surrounding poverty and sort of the widening gap of the rich versus the rest of us who don't have as much. And it seems to be widening. The cost of goods seems to be going up quite a bit. Food, gas, heating and hot water, things of that nature are all rising, while wages seem to be staying stagnant and or dropping. A couple things I noticed were that, for example, the U.S. national debt has already reached now, as of today, $15.7 trillion, and that's 103% of the GDP. The trade deficit has also widened as of last month substantially. I think it was over $50 billion it widened. The real estate prices have still dropped as of April 2012, so we're not seeing a rebound in the real estate market either. Also, I've noticed education. Student loans are up to $1 trillion now, and if you talk to anyone who's got a student loan, they'll tell you that they're drowning in sort of debt and payments which they cannot afford generally. On top of that, the public school systems in the United States for math and science and several other categories ranks 24th in the world, which is non-competitive. It's going to be tough to compete in an information-oriented economic world, a global sort of business world, if your educational levels are low. That's something we need to reinvest in and change. We can do that through mobile devices, which would be very cost-effective to deliver high-quality education as well. Healthcare costs are reaching $1.5 trillion by 2016. So we'll also see the retirement of 72 million baby boomers that are due to retire by 2016. And of course, they're all going to need some sort of health care, which the taxpayers that are working will have to pay for. It's another issue we need to solve. Unemployment. If you look at the underemployment and the unemployment numbers, that's the U6 numbers, you will see it more in the range of 18%, or roughly, let's say 20 to 22 million people are basically unemployed or lacking jobs in the United States. The other numbers you're getting are not really reflective of the real day-to-day life of how a person survives in America and tries to pay their bills and whatnot. Child poverty is reaching 42% that live at low or below poverty levels in the United States. U.S. infrastructure, $2 trillion is necessary to rebuild it, particularly the clean water, bridges, high-speed data communications. If you go to any of these other countries like Singapore, Japan, there's others, you'll find that there's a much higher, they have ultra-fast fiber optic networks throughout the countries, and it really helps to improve their business environment. Singapore is a great example of that. Their economy is growing, they're doing very well there, and they've got some great ideas that we might look at there for all sorts of things, including retirement, healthcare benefits, and whatnot. The U.S. spends, for example, $9,200 per year on public school students per student. We spend about $9,200 in a public school versus about $37,000 to $42,000 a year in the criminal justice system to house an inmate. Typically, when you look at the demographics of the inmates that are in U.S. jails, which, by the way, the U.S. has about 700% more prisoners in jail than any other country in the world, Um, 88% of those are there due to addiction issues or related issues to addiction. Crimes committed in relation to addiction, which most people believe is a medical condition that requires medical treatment. And yet only $500 or so, according to this FBI statistics, is spent out of the, let's say, $42,000 a year to house an inmate on addiction treatment. So they're not actually solving any problems whatsoever. Furthermore, the person's damaged even further when they get out because, of course, they have a record unable to get a job, which keeps them sort of trapped in a system where they have no way to, or very few options on how to integrate themselves back into society and participate and improve their lives, really, particularly financially. One of the main focuses that I believe we need to focus on here in the United States is that allowing and creating business incentives necessary to allow private businesses to invest in the people of America. So freeing up the business environment of regulations, giving incentives for manufacturing plants, and that type of thing. Would be very helpful for a small business to succeed. Solid reasons to consider voting for change, and I believe Mitt Romney would be the candidate to pick in this race coming up in 2012, November. Personally, maybe you don't like the person necessarily. However, there are other things to consider in this race, and particularly regarding financing and getting our whole debt issue under control. And I really believe that Mitt Romney is much more qualified than any other candidate out there, including Barack Obama, who has actually spent about over $5 trillion since he took office. Now, this money is used to stimulate the economy, and yet we're not seeing much in return for it. Most people I'm talking with, other small business owners, are all reflecting the same issues that I'm bringing up here. In other words, is there a more cost-effective way to spend what little money we have left, if any, and build a more stable foundation for future generations instead of just kind of piddling it away on things that are showing no real results? I think that's one thing a Romney would be focused on, would be the results of where all this money is going. And if there were no results, then he would cut it, for sure. Also, there's the history of it. Mitt Romney has done well, and he has a history of building businesses, also cutting costs, that's true. He turned around the Olympic Committee, which saved the committee basically in the Utah Olympics. And he got Massachusetts physically fit once again as well.
But this year, at this time, the American people recognize that what's happening in the economy is the most important thing that America faces. We got 16 million people without work or have stopped looking for work. We've got home values continuing to decline, record levels of foreclosure. The president said if we let him borrow $787 billion, he'd keep unemployment below 8%. We're now in the third year with unemployment above 8%. The economy is the issue people are concerned about, and that's where I've spent my time. I've had a real job in the real economy. I want to bring those skills to America.
And you are running on those business credentials. In 2008, you said, and I'm quoting, "We should let Detroit go bankrupt." Today, though, the industry is clearly on the rebound. 115,000 jobs added. Money is being paid back. The president, of course, is in Ohio today, highlighting Chrysler. You also accused the president yesterday of making the recession worse. But based on what we've seen in the auto industry, weren't you wrong in this case? Wasn't it right for both the auto industry and for the American economy to help that industry?
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding the word bankrupt. Bankruptcy, as you understand, is not liquidation of an enterprise. It's allowing an enterprise to go through the bankruptcy courts so that they can reorganize and come out stronger. And that's precisely what finally happened. When I wrote that piece, the auto industry was asking for a bailout. We were unwise just to send billions of dollars. Instead, finally, the president recognized I was right.
So you're
and
saying the
finally
president
put the company, in the case of General Motors, look, the right process for an enterprise in trouble is not to be given free money from the taxpayers with a bailout. It's instead to go through a bankruptcy process, reorganize their debts, reduce their costs, and come out stronger.
But the companies actually went through
bankruptcy.
But so the companies actually had to go through bankruptcy before that bailout.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. The headline you read, which is said, "Let Detroit go bankrupt," points out that those companies needed to go through bankruptcy to shed those costs. And the federal government put in, I think, $17 billion into those companies before they finally recognized, yeah, they need to go bankrupt, to go through that process so that they're able to get rid of their excess costs.
So then let's talk about jobs specifically, because you've also said the country needs a president who first and foremost knows how to create jobs. Many Americans want to see job creation, of course. Can you give me a specific example of one industry, one sector, where as president you would have a plan to go in and, in fact, show job creation? Let's say 1,000 jobs. How and where would you make that happen?
Well, throughout the entire economy. What government does, it either makes it easier for entrepreneurs and employers to grow and hire people, or it makes it harder. And what this president has done on almost every dimension has made it less likely for entrepreneurs to be able to grow jobs. So here's what I do. Number one, bring down our corporate and employer tax rates to be competitive with the world. Number two, make our regulatory and bureaucratic burden lower so that we're in a more attractive place to invest. Number three, adjust our trade policies so that trade is favorable to the U.S., not just to the people who sell goods here. Number four, make sure that we become energy independent. Sending $500 billion outside of our economy makes no sense at all. Number five, get our schools to be world class. Number six, get the federal government to stop spending more money than it takes in. That kills the value long term of our dollar. People won't invest and create jobs if they think the dollar won't be worth anything down the road. That's the kind of model we have to get back to work. And by the way, I spent my life in the private sector, 25 years. I know how we compete globally. I know when we're losing. And right now, this president has put us on a road of economic decline. Just look at the numbers. Look what's happening to America.